I'm tempted to start with one of my jokes tonight. Yeah, okay. Those of you who are regulars here know that I always start off with a corny joke, and if there's no groan, then you get another corny joke. Thank you. We already have a groan. Yeah, good idea. I'll give you a preview, though. Doug's going to do a presentation about RTTY, radio teletype, RTTY, if you're not familiar with that. And he's going to ask you a couple of great trivia questions. So get your minds clear, a little zone out, a little zen mode. Because my guess is that there will be a free cookie if you get it right.
Or if you don't.
Or even if you don't, there's probably still a free cookie. So Rachel, are you up and running? Okay. Well, welcome, folks, to the Vienna Wireless Society meeting on the 13th of July. This is Friday the 13th. What a great night for a radio club meeting, huh? And so Doug is going to start off talking with us about RTTY for about half an hour. We're going to have a business meeting, have some food, and then get into the main presentation, which is going to be a review of Field Day. We had a great Field Day, and Mike K. for CDN is going to tell us a little bit about that. I'm going to turn it over to Doug now, and I think you need to use this microphone.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Okay, how many folks are completely new to radio teletype contesting? Okay, a whole bunch of you. All right, well, why am I talking about radio teletype contesting? Because our next club event is going to be the North American QSO Party in radio teletyping. And that is 1 week from tomorrow. So Saturday the 21st, it starts at 2 p.m. At Pete's house and goes for up to 12 hours depending on how long folks want to stay. So what I'd like to do tonight is tell you a little bit about radio teletype, show you what happens during a radio teletype contest, show you perhaps a little bit about what to do when things don't go perfectly, and then get you ready, answer any questions you have. Okay. The first thing to say about radio teletype is that this is a very old technology. Right? It does not use the standard codes for numbers and letters that you're used to in computers. No ASCII in RTTY. It uses a 5-bit code. And my first trivia question is, when do you think that code was designed? Somebody give me a year.
1850.
Okay, a little later than that, but you're not in the wrong ballpark. 1874, it turns out. Commercial radio teletype machines date back to the 1930s when they first went into commercial and military use. Yeah, Keith?
Actually, that was a different code. That was Bordeaux, which this is not.
Okay. Thank you, Keith. We'll adjudicate that later if you would, please. But in any case, you'll find that this old protocol is a bit finicky. It likes to garble the message, and you're going to probably see that tonight, and you'll certainly see it if you come to Pete's house in a week. Now, 5 bits turns out not to be enough to encode all the characters and all the numbers. So the way that RTTY copes with that is that it sends shift characters. So if you're sending a letter and then you send a number, it will send a shift into numbers mode, and then it will shift back. And that's another way that things can get garbled up, because if that shift character goes down the drain, well then everything after it for a while will look funny. Okay, what else to say? When you do, Thank you. Some rigs have a dedicated RTTY mode that sends the 2 tones that RTTY uses, and it alternates back and forth between these 2 tones. Or you can do it by sending 2 audio tones over sideband, and it matters which sideband you use. Okay, well, which one is right? Well, it depends on what software package you're using. Okay, MMTTY, which is the one you're going to see tonight, wants you to be on lower sideband. If you use FLDigi, it wants to be on upper sideband, but both of them have a reverse button so that if you don't want to change your rig, you can tell the software that you're not on the sideband that it expects. Ham usage of RTTY. Well, when I first came back to amateur radio after a long absence in 2010, I used to see a fair number of RTTY pileups from, say, D expeditions and DX stations and an occasional RTTY rag chew. I see less of that now. The D expeditions are probably going to go to FT8. The rag chewers might do PSK31 or some other mode. And by the way, there are a lot of teletype done better modes in ham radio now, with PSK31 probably being the most popular of those. But there are still lots of RTTY contests. Many of the RTTY contests require that you use RTTY. There are some that allow you to use other modes in addition to RTTY. Of course, we just came back from field day, and at field day the rule was, any digital mode is fine. Some of the European RTTY contests also allow PSK. So over time, RTTY may be driven into decline in amateur radio. We'll see what happens, but as of today, there's still lots of contests. North American QSO Party. A lot of new people here. For those of you who have a little shyness streak in your personality like I do, let me just say a few words of encouragement. First of all, any activity that has QSO Party in the name, think of that more like a 5K fun run than a marathon. That's not going to be a contest that attracts an international following of dedicated contesters. It's going to be a more relaxed contest, and certainly when we do it, our emphasis is on participation, having a good time. It's a great time to learn. There'll be coaches there to teach. So if you're new, this is a great time to get a taste of RTTY and give it a shot. Let's see. Okay, when you're thinking about a contest, you of course need to look at the rules, and one of the key things you need to know is what information needs to be exchanged between the contest stations. And in the case of all of the NAQP contests, there are two pieces in addition to the call signs that you have to get. One is a name, and the other is a state or province or an abbreviation for Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands. Those also count as part of North America for NAQP. Well, something you also care about is what are your multipliers? Well, what are multipliers? You get 1 point per contact, and then you add that up, and then you multiply that by your multipliers. And you get a multiplier for each different state or province or Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, and so on. So to maximize your score, you want to work as many states and provinces and so on as you can. You do not get any multipliers for any entity outside of North America. So this is not a contest that's as likely to attract the outside the US folks. They can participate, and if you happen to work EA1, ABC in Spain or whatever, for his state you record DX. Okay, what else do I want to say? All right, so here I have two RTTY stations, and they are going to talk over the air a little more literally than they're used to, because instead of hooking the software up to a rig, the software is hooked up to microphones and speakers, right? So this station here is K4XY. This is us, all right? And this station is using the call sign K4RE, and my story is that he's going to be Joe in Alabama, all right? So we're going to operate here and talk to Joe in Alabama. Now, as in any contest, there are two modes of operation called run and search and pounce. Run means you're calling CQ. Search and pounce means you're tuning for a station, trying to find somebody calling CQ, and answering the CQs. Right? For newcomers, we suggest you start in search and pounce because then you have more time to get used to the mode. You can control your rate, whereas when you start running, you need to try to catch up with and keep caught up with the people who are answering. All right, so in our scenario, we're going to have K4RE call CQ, and we're going to answer. And what I'm going to do first is slow walk this whole process and show you what each message looks like and talk about, why it is the way it is. Okay? So first of all, what do I need to do? I'm going to sit down in front of our friend N1MM, the logging software. What should I do first at K4XY? All right. We heard Control-O or equivalently op-on, and that will let me enter my call sign and record the fact that I'm the one who's operating. So let me go ahead and do that. And by the way, we did a less than great job at field day. Me too, I forgot a couple of times. So it's real easy to forget, in part because, when I'm home just doing my own station, you don't need to do this. But when we are working as a group, we like to keep track of who did what. And the way to do that is to do Control-O, and it pops up a box that says enter your call sign, and I'll enter AK4AO, my call sign. And now everything that I transmit's or every contact that I log is going to be recorded with AK4O as the operator. Okay, so now we're ready, and we're going to start tuning, and we're listening for somebody calling CQ. Now, I can't show you tuning because we don't have a rig, so we'll just get a CQ to happen, and we'll go from there. Okay, so this is what a CQ might look like. These messages will not always look exactly the same. People vary, what they choose to send, but this is the way that I've set it up. So CQ, of course, means that I'm calling. NA says that I'm part of the NAQP contest. Now, if you just get the generic macros out of the box and use those, it'll probably send CQ test, short for contest. Well, that's fine, except for a couple of things. There might be more than one contest, and that's obviously a problem. And also, it's shorter to send NA than TEST. So I always edit the macros for any of these events. And by the way, you see this XFW over there at the right? Well, that's just garbage. And we're lucky there wasn't more. All right. The RTTY protocol loves to throw in extra characters and so on. Something that you can't obviously see here is that many of my messages are going to start with a carriage return, so they'll start at the beginning of a line. So if my answer is embedded in his garbage, it'll make it stand out more. Okay, so there's a good call sign. I want to answer him, and at some point I have to get the K4RE up in the call sign box, and I can do that by clicking on it, and you can do this at any point. It doesn't matter when you get this done. But what you want to do to answer is, see this, you can't see this well in the back, but there are a set of function key messages. And F4 says search and pounce, call him. All right, so I will call him. Okay, so what I sent in the macro was K4XY twice. All you need to send is your call sign. I send it twice. Why? Because RTTY's likely to garble it. All right, and if he gets two the same, he knows that, hey, that's probably a good transmission. All right? So I've sent my call sign, and if he decides that, if he hears me and decides that I'm the station he's going to answer, here's what he'll send. Okay. So the first thing which is grayed out and hard to read, was my call sign. So he's letting the world know that I'm the station that he's calling. All right, then he sends his exchange, which is his name and his state, and sends it twice because he wants to make reasonably sure that I'm going to get it. Okay, so I want to do two things now. I want to record the Joe and the Alabama, and the easiest way to do that is to click the Joe and the Alabama, and then I want to send our exchange, and that's the F2 function key, and you can actually use the function key or you can use the mouse. Because I'm clicking on things, I like to use the mouse. Okay, so I sent QSL, I got your message. People sometimes just send the exchange. They may send R for Roger. I've seen CFM for confirm, QSL, TU for thank you, or nothing at all, and they just send the exchange. So you'll see these variants. All right, so I've sent my exchange, and then K4RE is going to send okay. So he sent K4XY, it turned gray. We'll talk about colors in a second. Thank you, from K4RE. And I put in the DE. You don't have to, but I wanted anybody who's listening in to be sure to know that they want to call, if I'm K4RE, I want them calling me. I don't want them to start calling K4XY on this frequency. So I want them to know which station is which, and QRZ is an invitation for somebody else to go ahead and call me. And it goes ahead from there. Now, let's see. Let's talk about colors. This would be a good time to do it. Notice, one more thing. I will, in a second, I want to log it. But before I do that, notice that when I finished filling this in, the K4RE turned red, right? And that can be disturbing to folks because red usually means an error message or something. In N1MM, red is good. Okay, red is a multiplier. And why is he a multiplier? Well, I haven't previously worked Alabama. So it's a new state, so it's a multiplier. Another Alabama will stay blue. Kentucky will again turn red. All right. The other color that you need to be sure that you understand is gray. And gray is for a station that you can't work. And that's why K4XY is turning gray in all of the displays that you see. All right? So that's it in a nutshell. That's all you have to do to work a ready contest, except sometimes not everything goes exactly right. All right, so let's take a few more minutes. And how am I doing for time? Yep. I'll go ahead and log it now. Okay. Let me go ahead and log it. All right. So when I sent my K4XY, one of a few things could happen. He might answer somebody else, in which case you see another call sign, and your choices at that point are to either stand by and give it another shot, or tune if you think your chances are going to be better that way. He might send again, and if he's AGN question mark is a typical way to do that. That means, yo, I heard something, but I couldn't make any sense out of it. Try again. Okay. we also have an again button because if he sends the exchange, it may or it may not come out in clear text. All right, and if we need it again, we just click our again button, and where is our again button? Yeah, F8. We'd let him know that I heard him, I tried to get his exchange, but it garbled. Another thing that could happen is that somebody gets part of the exchange. And sometimes in NAQP they will send name ? Or state ? Asking for just that to come back to them. And I have some keys here that say Pat ×3 and Virginia ×3. So if he sent name ? I would go for that key, send the Pat 3 times, and that would probably be enough. Okay. And similarly for VA. Hey, Terry.
Is there a reason why you use the name Pat?
Well, the rules of the NAQP say that a club must use only one name. So when you're operating K4XY at any of the NAQPs, we've all got to use the same name. Traditionally, we use Pat for a couple of reasons. It's gender neutral and it's short and easy to copy. So if you're sending CW, your name's Pat for the purposes of the contest. Yeah.
I noticed that you're using laptops to do this. Is anybody still using the old mechanical RTTY machines?
I'm sure there are still some out there.
Teletype is not the same as RTTY.
True. But the question was, are there any of the old mechanical teletype machines out there being hooked up and used in contests? I bet you there are.
Certainly, and there's someone I know who I keep bugging to do so.
Okay.
He's got a bunch of teletypes, and he has them hooked up to Twitter.
Okay, let's see if there's anything. Let me just show you something real quick. If you think that you got a missing shift, you can mouse over something, and let's see. I'll point to Pat, and there, up at the top you see Pat at the right, and then 0-5 in the left. That's showing whatever you're pointing to in both shifts. And if you right-click anything, it should show it in the other shift. Let's just try that. The point of this is that in the RTTY protocol, there aren't enough bits to include both numbers and letters. So when you go from a letter to a number, it sends a shift character to get into numbers. If the shift character gets eaten, or if the shift back to letters gets eaten, then it prints a string of things that are not easily understood. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question, which is probably naive. I get CW because it's a challenge, and it's sort of all human, and it doesn't take all this complicated machinery. And I can do it with a razor blade and a crystal.
Mm-hmm.
In these days of error correcting code and reliable communications, why this?
Why RTTY? History.
Okay.
Why CW?
Because it's
Well,
because it's not using all this complicated.
but yeah.
It's analog.
Okay. But it's a hobby, and people got used to doing RTTY and enjoy it, and they still participate in contests, and the contests will probably be around as long as there are still people wanting to do them.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned that there's a button to turn it from letters to numbers. Is there also one to invert it in case you accidentally have the band upside down?
Yes. And there's a button over here. You can't see it well from where you're sitting. It says REV, and that will say, oops, I'm not on the same sideband that you're expecting, and it'll straighten that out for you. So a very simple fix if you see that going wrong. Okay, what other questions do you have?
You might note about all uppercase.
Well, again, there are only 5 bits. All right, that works out to 32 possible characters. That's not enough to do lowercase without another shift character or something like that. But in RTTY, they didn't do that. They just settled for everything in uppercase. Hmm? Yep, you're always yelling. Yeah.
Right, the original digital. I mean, Marcus, you have your mark in space. Marcus is 1, space is 0.
Mm-hmm.
The way it's always been explained to me.
Yeah.
It's been around for 100 years.
Well, as I said, you know, it was commercial technology in 1930. One other thing just to note, if we talk about the various digital modes, a lot of them are punchier than CW. All right. RTTY is less punchy than CW. And by punchy, I mean with 100 watts, how far are you going to be able to successfully make a contact? All right. So probably the punchiest thing in common use would be, well, JT65, but that's kind of fallen by the boards in favor of FT8. Which doesn't take as long to make a contact. And by the way, next time we have an open slot for this, I'll tell you about the de-expedition mode of FT8, but that's a story for another night. FT8 is probably the punchiest mode that is in common use, but you can only send 13 characters in 15 seconds. So it is not a good way to get to know people. Yeah.
Ron mentioned about the spaces and the marks in the spaces. Does the software you're using have the tuning scope? Like in the old days, you used to have an oscilloscope, and you could tune the frequency.
Yeah.
Crosshair, and know you're on.
Let me send something and watch right here. So I'm going to send the exchange message again because it's long enough. Okay. Now you see how this is making a nice cross? That's what it will look like when you've got the station properly tuned in. So that little widget is a tuning aid.
Doug, we're only using 170 shift nowadays on the ham band.
Yes. Yes. There are lots of combinations of shift and so on that are in use by somebody, but the ham standard is 170. MMTTY, this software will accommodate different configurations, but there's a button up here. Again, you probably can't see it very well. That says ham, and if you push that button, it'll set up everything the ham way. Yeah, Harry.
I didn't understand that RTTY was different than teletype. Could you explain that in 25 words?
It's a protocol to send teletype signals over radio as opposed to wire.
Yeah, I used to sit in front of a teletype. In 1970, I worked in the Division of Computer Research at NIH. And
Teletype to be written. You can.
yeah.
Connected by wires versus
Yeah, so wired teletypes work just fine. Over radio, you're definitely going to see some corruption of the messages.
Thanks,
Okay. All right, back to you.